The Unpaid Ledger. Episode 5. The Academic. Chapter 1. The Call. I was halfway through my second cup of terrible coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Almost. Sam Vance, I said. Mr. Vance, my name is Dr. Lena Okonkwo. I'm a professor of applied theoretical economics at Ashford University. Her voice was precise, professional, the kind of measured tone that came from years of lecturing undergraduates who'd rather be anywhere else. I'm conducting research into statistical anomalies in ledger placements, and your name has appeared in 47 incident reports over the past decade with mathematically impossible outcomes. I'd like to interview you for my research. I set down my coffee. Eddie looked up from the corner where he'd been pretending to read a magazine he couldn't actually touch. 47 reports. That was more than I'd thought. More than I wanted anyone counting. Dr. Okonkwo, I said. I appreciate the call, but I'm afraid I'm not available for academic research, client confidentiality, and all that. I understand your reluctance, but the patterns I'm seeing I'm sure they're fascinating, but I've got a busy schedule. Maybe try again, never. I hung up. Eddie flickered slightly. She sounded smart. That's the problem. You know she's going to keep digging. Let her. She won't find anything. Famous last words. I went back to my paperwork. The thrilling life of an adjuster. Kevin Marsh's case was officially closed, documented, filed away in the cabinet that was mostly empty because I kept forgetting to actually file things. The collector case. Nina Santos. Calvin Rhodes, and the whole mess with Miriam Tate. Every file represented costs I'd moved, debts I'd shuffled around until the numbers balanced, and someone walked away breathing. And every case in the last 5 years had a shadow attached to it. The costs that didn't land. The ones that vanished when I pushed them into nowhere. I'd been ignoring what that meant. Easier that way. My desk was covered in invoices I couldn't pay, rent notices I'd been avoiding, and a note from Marcus about a consultation fee I still owed him from 3 months ago. The glamorous world of supernatural problem solving. I made just enough to keep the lights on and the landlord from changing the locks. The coffee was cold. I drank it anyway. Eddie was watching me. He did that sometimes. Just watched. Like he was waiting for me to finally acknowledge the thing neither of us wanted to talk about. She said 47 cases, he said quietly. I heard her. That's a lot of attention, Sam. Academic attention is worse than bureau attention. Auditors have rules. Academics have tenure and nothing but time. He was right. Auditors came and went. They investigated, filed reports, moved on to the next irregularity. But a professor with a research grant and a theory? That was someone who wouldn't stop until they documented every anomaly, published every finding, turned your entire life into a case study. My phone rang again. Same unknown number. I answered. Dr. Okonkwo, I already told you. Mr. Vance. Different woman entirely. Same voice, but the professional composure was gone, replaced by something I recognized immediately. Fear. Raw, immediate. The kind that came from seeing something your brain couldn't process. My lab. Something manifested in my lab. It's physical. It's aware. And I need help. Now. I was already standing. Where are you? Ashford University. Social Sciences Building, 4th floor, room 427. The temperature dropped 15 degrees in 10 seconds. My equipment is going haywire. Every motion sensor in the building is triggering simultaneously. Eddie materialized fully, watching me, his form sharper than usual, alert. Dr. Okonkwo, did you touch anything unusual? Move any stored costs? I don't work with costs, Mr. Vance. I study the mathematics of placements. I don't touch anything. This is a university lab, not something crashed in the background. Glass breaking. Heavy. Like a filing cabinet going over, or maybe a bookshelf. The sound of something solid hitting something fragile. Jesus Christ, she said. It's getting closer. Please. April. The realization hit me like cold water. April Chin had been working with Lena all week, cross-referencing bureau placement records with economic patterns. tracking Bellamy's network through paper trails and money flows. She'd mentioned meeting with some professor at the university, said the woman had data that could help connect the dots. April was in that building. I'm on my way, I said. Lock your door. Don't go near it. I hung up. Called April. Straight to voicemail. Called again. Nothing. My hands were shaking. I forced them still. Third time, she answered. Whisper. Sam, something's wrong with the building. I'm on the third floor in a classroom, and I can't. The call cut. Not like she hung up. Like something interrupted the signal. The line went to static for a moment, then dead. Books and blood, I said. Eddie was already at the door. What do you need? Derek, Marcus, everyone. I grabbed my keys, my phone, the canvas bag I kept for emergencies. It had salt, iron filings, a lighter, and a flask of water Marcus had blessed or cursed or whatever he did to make things useful. The radio in my car was already crackling as I reached the street. Static, breathing underneath, and something that might have been words, too distant to make out. The signal was wrong. Not broadcast interference, something else. Eddie appeared in the passenger seat as I started the engine. His form flickered at the edges, like bad reception. This is bad, he said. I know. No, Sam. I can feel this thing from here. It's like me, in the gray space, but bigger. How much bigger? His form flickered again, stronger this time, like something was pulling at him. I don't know, but it knows you're coming. The radio crackled. Static cleared for just a moment. Underneath, I heard my own voice, younger, saying words I couldn't quite make out. Something about years and payment and choices that couldn't be undone. I drove faster. Chapter 2. Campus. Ashford University looked like every mid-tier state school. Old buildings pretending to be older. New buildings pretending to fit in. The social sciences building was the former. Gothic revival architecture from the 1920s. Stone and ivy and windows that belonged in a church. It should have been full of students. Evening classes. Study groups. The usual controlled chaos of academic life. Young people arguing about theories they barely understood, carrying coffee in paper cups, complaining about assignments. It wasn't. The quad was empty. Not just quiet. Empty in a way that felt wrong. Like people had left in a hurry and hadn't come back. A backpack sat abandoned on a bench. Someone's laptop, still open, glowing in the dark. Campus security had the building cordoned off. Yellow tape strung between orange cones. A single guard posted at the main entrance. Gas leak, apparently. The official story. The one they always used when something happened that couldn't be explained to people who wanted rational answers. The guard was Danny Reeves. I'd done work for his sister 3 years ago. Helped her with a problem involving costs that had landed wrong. She'd been drowning in consequences that weren't hers. I'd moved them. Danny remembered. Danny? He looked up, recognized me. His expression shifted from bored security guard to something more alert. Vance, this is a restricted area. I know. I need to get inside. Can't do it. Orders from the top. Buildings evacuated until maintenance clears it. I moved closer, kept my voice low. Danny, your sister. The job I did. You said if I ever needed anything. He looked around. The quad was empty. No witnesses. No cameras pointing this direction. He stepped aside. 5 minutes. Then I never saw you. Appreciate it. Inside, the building was dark. Emergency lighting only. Fluorescent fixtures flickering at irregular intervals, throwing shadows that moved wrong. The main power was out. I could see the backup generators humming somewhere deep in the building's guts, but they weren't keeping up. The air was cold. Not normal cold. Not even winter cold. This was the kind that settled in your bones and didn't leave. The kind that came from somewhere else. I could see my breath fogging in the red glow of the exit signs. The temperature had to be in the 40s. Inside a building that was heated to 70 degrees 2 hours ago. Derek Wade was waiting in the lobby. Built like a truck, dressed like he'd come from a security job. Tactical pants, boots, jacket that probably had 3 weapons concealed under it, which he probably had. Derek believed in preparation. April called me first, Derek said. His voice was tight, controlled. Told me to get you. Where is she? 3rd floor, East Wing. Barricaded in a classroom. Said something's hunting her. The word settled wrong. Hunting. Not chasing. Not looking for. Hunting. What about the professor? Dr. Okonkwo's on the 2nd floor. Says the thing started in her lab on 4 and has been moving down. Methodical. Like it's searching floor by floor. Footsteps on the stairs. Dr. Lena Okonkwo appeared from the 2nd floor landing. Late 40s, Nigerian American, dressed in what had probably been professional attire 6 hours ago. Pencil skirt, blouse, jacket. Now she looked like she'd been through a crisis. Hair disheveled, jacket gone, blouse torn at the shoulder, clutching a tablet like it was the only solid thing left in the world. Mr. Vance. She saw me. Visible relief washed across her face. Thank God. It's on the 4th floor now. My equipment registered. Eddie materialized next to me. Full visibility. He usually stayed invisible around strangers, but this wasn't the time for subtlety. Lena stopped, stared. Her mouth opened, closed, her academic brain trying to process what she was seeing. A translucent figure standing in a lobby that shouldn't have ghosts. That's your... Eddie looked at her. He's with me. You're dead, Lena said. Not panicked. Statement of fact. Academic observation. She was cataloging what she was seeing even as her hands shook. Your form is partially corporeal, existing in what would be classified as gray space overlap. You shouldn't be visible unless... She looked at me. Unless someone with your abilities is maintaining your presence. Smart. Too smart. Yeah, Eddie said. It's a whole thing. I cut in. Dr. Okonkwo, the thing in your lab. Tell me about it. She blinked. Refocused. The academic training kicking in. Analyze. Document. Report. She pulled up her tablet, fingers moving across the screen with practiced efficiency. Appeared approximately 2:45 p.m. Started as a distortion, like heat shimmer in the corner of my lab. I thought it was equipment malfunction at first, but then it coalesced into something more solid. Humanoid. Roughly 6 feet tall. Cold radiates from it in measurable waves. Electronics malfunction in its presence. Phones die. Computers crash. Every light fixture it passes goes dark. She pulled up a graph. Temperature readings over time. It's been moving through the building methodically, floor by floor. Searching. Searching for what? Derek asked. Lena pulled up a waveform on her tablet. Audio analysis. A pattern that repeated. Oscillating frequencies that looked almost like speech. She played it. My name. In my own voice. From years ago. Sam Vance. Sam Vance. Sam Vance. Over and over. Like a recording stuck on loop. Him, Lena said, looking at me. It's searching for you, Mr. Vance. The main entrance opened behind us. Marcus Bell walked in like he was arriving at a jazz club. Perfectly dressed, despite the hour and the emergency. Charcoal suit, pocket square, carrying a leather case that looked expensive and very, very old. Mid-60s and completely unbothered by the emergency lighting and cold. Young man, Marcus said, looking at me. You've been busy. Marcus, how did you? Dr. Okonkwo called me too. Said she needed an expert in stored costs. He smiled slightly. I'm flattered. Also, she mentioned something manifested that shouldn't exist. That's usually your area. Eddie flickered, his form destabilizing for a moment. It's moving. 4th floor, heading toward the stairs. Derek pulled his weapon. Checked the magazine. Can we kill it? It's not alive, I said. It's accumulated cost. Debt made manifest. You can't kill debt. So what's the plan? We get April out, then we deal with it. Marcus opened his case. Inside, 3 vessels. Ornate boxes made of silver and something darker. crystals that caught the emergency light and held it. One very old pocket watch that hummed with potential. I could feel them from here, each one designed to hold something that shouldn't exist. Lena stared at the case, at Marcus, at me. Who are you people? Later, I said. Right now we move. Derek, you're with me. Eddie scouts ahead. Marcus, prepare containment. Lena, stay here. Monitor your equipment. I'm not staying. This isn't a request. I looked at her, made sure she understood. That thing is made from costs I pushed. It's looking for me. If it finds you first, you're in the way. And things in the way tend to get hurt. She didn't like it, but she stayed. Derek and I headed for the stairs. Eddie faded ahead of us. Scout. The way we'd done it 100 times before. The cold got worse as we climbed. By the second floor landing, my fingers were numb. By the third floor, every breath hurt. Chapter 3. Contact. Third floor. East wing. The hallway stretched in both directions under emergency lighting. Red glow that made everything look like an old photograph. Shadows that didn't quite match the light sources. Angles wrong. Darkness pooling in corners that shouldn't have been dark. Offices lined both sides. Windows showing nothing but darkness beyond. Not night darkness. Something heavier. Like the world outside had been replaced with absence. The temperature had dropped another 10 degrees. My breath fogged thick enough to see shapes in it. Eddie materialized beside me. His form was flickering badly now, struggling to maintain cohesion. It's directly above us. Fourth floor. Not moving, like it's waiting. Waiting for what? You. The way he said it made something cold settle in my chest that had nothing to do with the temperature. Derek moved ahead. Professional. Weapon ready, but held low. He'd been an auditor once, before he decided he didn't like the politics. Knew how to move through hostile territory. Check corners. Watch sight lines. Never assume a space is empty just because you can't see anything. We found April in Economics 312. Desk pushed against the door. Chair wedged under the handle. She was sitting on the floor, back to the wall, phone in her hand. The screen was cracked. Battery at 2%. She looked up when we came in. Sam, thank God. There's something. I know. We're getting you out. She stood. 22 years old and trying very hard not to shake. Failing. It walked past my door twice. I could see it through the window. It's wrong, Sam. Like looking at a hole in the world. Like reality gave up and left a gap. Derek checked the hallway through the window. We're clear for now. Move fast. Stay quiet. We moved toward the stairs. Quiet. No talking. The only sound was our footsteps and the buildings settling around us. Old buildings made noise. Thermal contraction. Pipes. Wind against stone. But this wasn't that. This was different. Like the building itself was reacting to what was inside it. The walls felt wrong under my hand. Too cold. Too smooth. Like touching ice that hadn't frozen yet. Eddie appeared in front of me. Sam, it's coming. From above, the sound of something heavy dragging. Metal on stone. Then footsteps. Too many. Overlapping. Like a crowd walking in perfect synchronization. All of them moving as one. The temperature dropped again. Sudden. Brutal. My hands went numb instantly. The moisture in the air crystallized. Frost forming on the walls, on the floor, on Derek's weapon. Derek pulled his gun up. I positioned myself between April and the stairwell. Eddie moved to my left, flanking position. It appeared at the top of the stairs. Humanoid, roughly. Made of distortion and shadow and something that looked like frost forming in midair. Where it stood, reality looked thin, translucent. Like I could put my hand through the air and touch somewhere else. Somewhere I didn't want to go. I could see things moving across its surface. Injuries flickering past. Deaths. Grief. Years stolen. Costs I'd moved over the years. Costs that vanished mid-push instead of landing where they should. All of them collected in one place, condensed, compressed, waiting. It spoke, not with a mouth. The words formed in the air around it, frost crystallizing into sound. In my own voice from years ago, younger, more certain, before I knew what I was becoming, the years you spent. Everyone move, I said, kept my voice level. Now, midnight, the river, the choice you made. Derek fired. 3 shots, center mass, perfect placement. The bullets passed through. The entity didn't notice, didn't flinch. The rounds hit the wall behind it and stopped, embedded in stone. Where do we go when you push us nowhere? It took a step down the stairs. The metal groaned. Stress fractures spreading. Frost grew from where its foot touched, spreading fast. The railing iced over, brittle. Eddie's form flickered violently. Sam, if that thing touches me, I don't come back. I'm part of it. I join it. The entity spoke again. More voices now, not just mine. 15 years the price. Eddie Lusk, the debt. Nowhere to land, nowhere to be. I couldn't push the entity. I tried pushing costs that didn't exist. That's how this thing was made. But the cold radiating from it, the physical manifestation of its presence that I could work with. I grabbed the wall, connected, felt the building's bones, stone and steel and concrete, old materials that remembered being something else before they were a building. I pushed the temperature into it, shoved the cold into stone and steel and anywhere but here. Displacement. Not a solution, just buying time. The entity paused, distracted, the cold its anchor to this space. I just moved part of that anchor. Run, I said. Now. We ran. Chapter 4. Containment. Ground floor. Main atrium. Marble floors. High ceiling with exposed beams. Gothic arches that someone in the 1920s thought looked impressive. It did. It also created excellent acoustics. Every sound echoed. Marcus had his vessels laid out on a table someone had abandoned during the evacuation. The ornate boxes arranged in a specific pattern. A circle. The crystals placed at cardinal points. The pocket watch at the center, ticking loud enough to hear from across the room. The whole setup hummed. Not audibly. Deeper than that. I could feel it in my chest, in my teeth. The vessels resonating with each other, creating something. A space. A container without walls. Lena was studying her tablet. Sensor data. Audio waveforms. Temperature readings, tracking the entity's movement through the building. She'd turned the whole building into an experiment, documenting everything. It's following you, Mr. Vance, she said, not looking up from her screen. Not April. Not the building. You specifically. It's drawn to you like magnetic resonance, like iron to a lodestone. The correlation is 0.97. That's not coincidence. That's causation. It's made from costs I pushed, I said. They didn't land. They went somewhere. This is where. Marcus looked at me. The light from the vessels reflected in his eyes. How long have you been making these, young man? 5 years. Since I figured out I was different. Since Kevin Marsh's uncle and the pocket watch. Since I realized that when I pushed certain costs, they didn't land anywhere I could feel. They just vanished. Gone. No consequence. No balance. The ledger should have punished me. Should have taken payment. But it didn't. And I'd been too relieved to question why. Lena processed that. I could see her brain working. Calculating. You're creating a debt singularity. Costs with nowhere to go collapse into concentrated form. This is theoretically possible, but I've never seen documentation of. It's here, Eddie said. Now. The entity appeared on the second floor balcony, looking down at us, not moving, just present. Suddenly, the space between fourth floor and second floor, irrelevant. It had stopped walking. Now it just moved, reality bending to accommodate it. The air around it shimmered wrong, not heat, the opposite, anti-heat. Frost spread on the metal railing. The stone balustrade cracked. Thermal stress. Molecules contracting too fast. Marcus touched one of the vessels, the largest box. Silver, covered in symbols I didn't recognize. Older than anything I'd seen him use before. I can contain it, temporarily. But you'll need to push it into the vessel, Sam. And that thing is big. You're going to feel all of it. I knew what he meant. To push a cost, it had to flow through you. That was the rule. The price. You felt what you were moving. Every injury. Every death. Every year stolen. This entity was hundreds of costs compressed into one mass. Feeling them all at once might kill me. How long will the vessel hold? I asked. If we're lucky, a year, maybe less. And if we're not lucky, it breaks in a week and we do this again with a bigger entity. Derek moved closer. Protective instinct. There's got to be another way. The main entrance opened. A man walked in. Professional. Mid-40s. Carrying equipment. Tablet, sensors, recording devices. He moved with purpose. The kind of confidence that came from knowing exactly what you were walking into and doing it anyway. Derek shifted, weapon half raised. Who the hell are you? The man didn't look at Derek. He studied the entity, made notes on his tablet. His expression was calm, clinical, like he was observing a particularly interesting experiment. Dr. Adrian Cross, private research concern. He glanced at me. Finally, eye contact, assessing. We've been monitoring ledger anomalies in Ashford for some time, Mr. Vance. The statistical irregularities, the impossible outcomes. We wondered if you were the source or the symptom. Now we know. Derek moved to intercept. Cross didn't resist, didn't fight, just stood there, observing, recording. I'm not here to interfere, Cross said. His voice was steady, measured, the voice of someone used to being in control. Just to learn. Please, continue. This is fascinating. I looked at Derek. Let him watch. We've got bigger problems. The entity descended from the balcony. It didn't walk down the stairs. It didn't climb over the railing. It just moved. One moment on the second floor, the next on the ground level. The space between didn't seem to matter anymore. Physics bending. It was 20 feet away, then 10. Hunting. Marcus held up the silver box, opened the lid. Inside, darkness. Not empty space. Actual darkness. Like a piece of void given form. Decision time, young man. I had options. None of them good. All of them with consequences I couldn't predict. Push it into the vessel. Would hurt like nothing I'd felt before. Might not hold. Might crack and release everything back out stronger. Let it loose. Unacceptable. It would grow. Feed. Consume. Eventually, it would be too big to contain. Anchor it to the building permanently. Make the university a permanent hazard. Students walking over concentrated debt every day. Bad idea. Push it into myself. Absorb it back. Probably fatal. Definitely fatal. I can split it, I said. The idea forming as I spoke. Push most into the vessel. Anchor the rest to the building's foundation. Divide the load. Make it manageable. Marcus was quiet for a moment, thinking, calculating probabilities I couldn't see. That's ambitious. I've never seen it attempted. You have a better idea? No, but you're going to hate this. The entity was 10 feet away, close enough that the cold burned, my skin cracking, blood freezing in the capillaries near the surface. Everyone back, I said. April, Lena, Derek. They moved to the far side of the atrium. Maximum distance. Eddie stayed close. He always stayed close. Sam, Eddie said. Don't. Keep them safe. That's not. Keep them safe. Cross stood off to the side, recording everything. His tablet capturing sensor data. His expression calm. Clinical. Like watching a fascinating procedure. He'd traveled here for this. Whoever he worked for wanted data. They were getting it. Marcus positioned himself with the vessel. one hand on the silver box, the other extended toward me, creating a circuit, a path for the cost to flow. On your word. I stepped toward the entity. Chapter 5. The Push. The entity stopped. We were 3 feet apart. The cold was burning my skin, frost forming on my jacket, on my hands, on my face. I could see them now, clearly. The costs, flickering across its surface like images on disturbed water. Deaths, dozens of them. Injuries, years of life stolen. Grief that had no name. Consequences that should have landed but didn't. All the things I'd pushed into nowhere over 5 years. All of them, waiting, compressed, furious. I reached out, touched it. Connection. It was like grabbing a live wire made of ice and grief and rage. Every cost I'd ever pushed that didn't land, they were all here, pressed together. I could feel them, sense them individually, even as they existed as one mass. Deaths, 3 cardiac arrests, heart stopping, starting, stopping again. The moment between beats, stretching forever. Cancer, malignant, stage 4. Cells dividing wrong. Eating healthy tissue. Pain without relief. Paralysis. Spinal cord severed. Everything below the neck just gone. Phantom sensations of movement that would never come. Dementia. Mind fragmenting. Forgetting names. Faces. Self. Losing pieces until nothing coherent remained. Gunshot wound, center mass. Lungs filling with blood, drowning from the inside. Fire, skin burning. Nerves screaming until they couldn't scream anymore. Cold so deep, it stopped thought. Hypothermia. Everything slowing, shutting down. I felt all of it, simultaneously. Every death, every injury, every stolen year. The entity wasn't just showing me, it was making me experience it, making me understand exactly what I'd created. And underneath the pain, underneath the horror, knowledge. The entity wasn't sentient. Not really. But it knew things. It was made from my own costs. Those costs remembered where they came from, what had created them, who had pushed them into nowhere. It showed me. Midnight. The Ashford River. 7 years ago. The water was cold, black, moving slow under the bridge. Eddie Lusk was dying on the bank. Consequence of a job gone wrong. A placement that had backfired. His death was the only way to balance the books. The ledger demanded it. The math was absolute. I refused to let it land. I pushed, harder than I'd ever pushed anything. Shoved Eddie's death into nowhere, into undefined space, into the gap between what was and what should be. I held it there. Wouldn't let the ledger take him. Wouldn't let the cost complete. And someone was watching. A woman, standing on the riverbank, waiting. Like she'd known I would be there. Like she'd known what I would try. The moment I became a null entry. The moment costs started vanishing instead of landing. The moment the ledger broke its own rules because something in me was fundamentally wrong. The cost for saving Eddie. My own years. 15 of them. Ripped away in a single push. Torn from my future and fed into nowhere. Payment the ledger demanded because I'd violated something fundamental. And the woman's voice. Amused. Pleased. You can't outrun what you've made, Samuel. I pulled back to the present. The entity still connected. Still touching me. Waiting to see what I would do. Where I would push it. What price I would pay this time. Marcus touched the vessel. Created the circuit. Silver box humming. Vibrating. Ready to receive. Now, I said. I pushed. The cost flowed. Through me. Not around. Through. Like water through a pipe. But the pipe was my nervous system. My cells. My consciousness. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Every vanished consequence I'd created in 5 years, condensed into one horrific current. I felt cardiac arrest 3 times, simultaneous. My heart stopped, started, stopped again, the moment between beats stretching, terror of never starting again. I felt cancer eating through tissue, malignant cells dividing, consuming, my body cannibalizing itself. I felt paralysis, my legs gone, arms gone, everything below my neck just empty. Signals sent, nothing received. I felt dementia, my mind fragmenting, forgetting my name, Eddie's name, where I was, who I was, losing pieces until nothing made sense. I felt fire, skin burning, nerves screaming, the smell of my own flesh cooking. I felt drowning, lungs filling, water where air should be, panic, darkness. I felt freezing, everything slowing, core temperature dropping, thoughts becoming sluggish, sleep beckoning, final sleep. I felt dying, over and over and over. Every death I'd ever moved flowing through me like a current of razors. It flowed through me into the vessel. Marcus was bleeding from his nose, from his ears, holding the circuit, maintaining connection even as it tried to kill him. The vessel glowed red hot, the silver melting at the edges. April was screaming my name. I couldn't hear her. My hearing was gone, ruptured eardrums from the pressure, blood running hot down the side of my face. The vessel cracked, hairline fracture, spreading, spider webbing across the silver surface, the darkness inside pushing outward, testing the boundaries. It wasn't going to hold. Too much, too big. I'd created something that couldn't be contained. I redirected, grabbed the floor with my other hand, connected to the building's foundation. Stone and steel and concrete, old materials, stable, deep. I split the load. Half into the vessel, compress, contain. Half into the university's bones, anchor, bind. The entity fractured, not cleanly. It fought, resisted, tried to stay whole. But I was stronger, barely. I was channeling costs I'd created. They responded to me. Still, part of it compressed into the silver box, darkness folding in on itself, condensing. The box sealed with a sound like thunder, metal ringing, the lid slamming shut with force that shouldn't have been possible. Part of it sinking into stone and steel, anchoring to the building itself, becoming part of the foundation, dead, woven into architecture. The cold dissipated, sudden, the temperature rising 10 degrees in seconds, my skin burning from the change. Thermal shock. The lights flickered back to life, fluorescent fixtures humming. Normal light, too bright after the emergency glow. I collapsed. My hands were black. Frostbite, deep tissue damage. I was bleeding from my eyes, ears, nose. Couldn't stand. Couldn't feel anything below my wrists. My legs worked, but barely. Everything hurt. Everything. Eddie knelt beside me. You complete idiot. Derek got to me first, checked my pulse, 2 fingers on my throat. He's alive. Barely. Pulse is weak, irregular. Cross spoke from across the room. Recording still active. Tablet capturing everything. Fascinating. A bilateral dispersal. Partial containment. Partial anchor. I've never seen that attempted. The stress on your system should have been fatal. He reviewed his tablet, scrolling through data. Mr. Vance, you're more resourceful than our projection suggested. This will require recalculation. Derek stood, faced Cross, hand on his weapon. Who the hell do you work for? Cross smiled, pocketed his equipment. Casual. Like this was all routine. We'll be in touch. He placed a business card on a nearby chair. Just a phone number. No name, no organization, nothing. When you're ready to understand what you really are, call. We can answer questions. He walked out, calm, unhurried. Derek tried to follow. By the time he reached the door, Cross was gone. No car, no footprints in the frost, nothing. Like he'd never been there. April knelt beside me, her hands shaking. Sam needs a hospital. No hospital, I managed. Mouth full of blood, tongue numb. They'll ask questions. Bureau will hear about it. Can't. Lena stood. Academic mode reasserting itself. Problem solving. I have a first aid kit in my office. And bandages. And I need answers. Many answers. Marcus carefully lifted the silver box. Still hot. Steam rising from the surface. Let's get him upstairs. We're not done here. Not by a long shot. Chapter 6. Aftermath. Lena's office. 4th floor. Same floor where this had started. The room looked normal. Books on shelves. Papers on the desk. Coffee mug with Ashford University logo. Computer monitor dark. Like nothing had happened. But I could feel it. The building. Half an entity anchored to its foundation. Compressed debt woven into stone and steel. This place would never be normal again. I was patched up. Bandages on my hands. White gauze wrapped around blackened skin. The frostbite would heal. Eventually. Might lose a finger. Maybe two. The internal damage from feeling all those costs flow through me, that would take longer. Years. If I had years left. I couldn't feel my hands. That was probably for the best. Lena had her tablet, running calculations based on sensor data from the manifestation, temperature readings, audio analysis, spatial distortion measurements. Her expression was equal parts terrified and fascinated. The scientist in her couldn't help but document even as the human part recoiled. You're a null entry, she said. Not a question. Statement of fact based on data. That's one name for it. Costs you push don't land. They accumulate. Form concentrations. That entity was made from 5 years of unplaced debt. She showed me her calculations. Numbers and graphs that meant nothing to me. Charts with curves that looked wrong. Exponential growth where there should have been linear. At this rate, you have 2 to 3 years before catastrophic manifestation. Something you can't contain. Something that will consume you and everything around you. Marcus sat in the corner, still holding the silver box, still hot. He hadn't put it down since the atrium. I knew a man once who made something like this, tried to outrun it for 3 years. It ate him alive, literally. Started with his fingers, then his hands. Worked its way up. Took 6 months to finish. He was conscious for most of it. April stood by the window, looking out at the campus. Students would be back tomorrow, walking over a foundation that held compressed debt. They'd never know. So what do we do? Stop pushing costs until we understand the mechanism, Lena said. Her voice was steady. Professor mode, presenting conclusions. Or find where they're actually going, because they're not going nowhere. Nothing goes nowhere. That's not how reality works. I can't stop. People need help. Then every job you take makes this worse. You're feeding it, growing it. Eventually, it will be bigger than you can contain. And when that happens, it won't be negotiable. It will consume everything. Eddie materialized near the desk, solid. More solid than I'd seen him in weeks. She's right, Sam. Derek checked his phone. Text from Miriam Tate, still maintaining her cover at the bureau. Calvin Rhodes hadn't reported her yet. That was worse than if he had. It meant he was planning something. What about the half you anchored here? Derek asked, looking at the floor. This building? Lena checked her sensors. Readings she'd left running. The equipment capturing data continuously. It's stable. For now. But it's part of the foundation. Woven into the structure. This building is haunted by debt that should have landed somewhere else. Students will feel it. Professors. Anyone sensitive? They won't understand why this building feels wrong. But it will. Marcus set the silver box on Lena's desk, carefully, like handling explosives. This won't hold forever. Maybe a year. Maybe less if the stress was greater than I calculated. When it breaks, we'll need to be ready. What happens when it breaks? I asked. Same thing that just happened, but bigger. The entity will reform, larger, angrier, and it will remember what you did. April turned from the window, her expression hard, determined. Sam, what happened that night? The night you lost your years. What did you do? I didn't answer immediately. Eddie looked at me, waiting. We'd avoided this conversation for 7 years. Easier that way. Less complicated. I saved someone who shouldn't have been saved, I said finally, and the ledger took payment. Who? I looked at Eddie. Lena was already putting it together. Smart. Too smart. Mr. Lusk. He's the consequence. The price. You refused to let his death land. You pushed it somewhere else. Made him exist in this gray state between alive and dead. Nowhere, Eddie said quietly. He pushed it nowhere, and I came back. Sort of. Been stuck like this for 7 years. And you've been paying for it ever since, April said, looking at me, understanding dawning. Every cost you've pushed since then, that's been accumulating. 7 years, I confirmed. Lena stared at her tablet, the numbers on the screen, calculations that shouldn't work, but did. That shouldn't be possible. The ledger doesn't allow debt without payment. The math has to balance. It got paid, I said, with my years, 15 of them, gone in one night, ripped out of my future and fed into the void. The room was quiet. Outside, campus security was finally clearing the building, yellow tape coming down. Students would be back tomorrow, evening classes resuming, walking over a foundation that held compressed debt, living in a building that was fundamentally wrong now. They'd never know. That was worse somehow. Lena closed her laptop. Decision made. I need to understand what's happening to you. Not for a paper, not for research. Because whatever this is, it's going to get worse. And when it does, you're going to need someone who understands the mathematics, the mechanics, someone who can calculate what you can't see. This isn't academic research, I said. I know, but you're breaking the fundamental laws of ledger mechanics, creating something that shouldn't exist. And I can't ignore that. I can't walk away knowing what I know. Marcus stood, adjusted his jacket, straightened his tie. Welcome to the team, Dr. Okonkwo. It's terrible. You'll regret it. But you're committed now. Derek helped me stand. My legs worked. Barely. That was something. We should go. Before someone asks questions, we can't answer. April gathered her things. Research papers. Lena's data. Cross-referenced files on bureau corruption. Lena packed her equipment. Sensors. Tablet. Hard drives with recordings of everything that had happened. Marcus took the silver box, handled it with reverence. Fear. This thing held half an entity. Compressed debt. It would need to be stored somewhere safe, somewhere contained. They left. Eddie and I stayed. I was staring at the spot where the entity had first appeared hours ago, the corner of Lena's lab. The air still felt wrong, thin, like reality hadn't fully recovered, like it remembered what had been there and couldn't quite forget. 4 floors below, my car radio crackled to life. I was 4 floors up. The car was in the parking lot 300 feet away, but I could hear it anyway. Faint, distant, but clear enough. Lena's sensors picked up the audio transmission. She'd left them running, recording everything, capturing data automatically. She played it for me. Static, then my own voice. Young, terrified, from 7 years ago. It wasn't enough. It'll never be enough. And underneath, another voice. Female. Familiar now. I'd heard it before, in the entity's memories. It's accumulating, Samuel. Growing. Waiting. And when it comes for you, when all those costs finally manifest together, there won't be anywhere left to push it. No more nowhere. You'll have to choose where it lands. The transmission ended. Static. Then silence. Do you know that woman? Lena asked, her voice quiet. No, but she knows me. She's known me for 7 years. Eddie appeared beside me, his form more solid than usual, stable, like the entity had strengthened him somehow. Sam, we need to talk about that night. I know. Really talk. No more avoiding. Because whatever's coming, whatever she is, it's connected to what happened at the river, to what you did, to what I became. I stood, my hands still numb, my body aching from costs I'd felt flow through me, dying 100 times in the space of minutes, my heart stopping and starting and stopping again. Yeah, I said. I know. We left the building, the silver box in Marcus's car, locked in a case designed to hold things that shouldn't exist. The entity anchored to the foundation, woven into stone and steel. Dr. Lena Okonkwo now part of something she couldn't walk away from. Questions she couldn't unanswer. And somewhere, the woman's voice echoing in static. Waiting, watching, planning. 2 to 3 years, Lena had said, before catastrophic manifestation. I drove home. The radio crackled, breathing underneath. Words I couldn't quite make out but understood anyway. Some debts you can't outrun. I was starting to understand that.